Good morning, everybody, and I would like to open the meeting of our special budget meeting this morning. I would like to welcome our one guest in the gallery, Joy. Nice to see you, Joy. And we have no apologies for this morning, so we're good to go. So 3.1 is the Statement of Estimated Financial Position 23-24. Do I have a mover? Councillor Brompton.
I move that pursuant to Section 205 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the Statement of Estimated Financial Position for the previous financial year 2023-24 be received and its contents noted.
Do you have a seconder? Councillor Davis. Anyone like to speak? Ever like to speak?
No. I'll speak. I'll be speaking for, but I just want to make note of the flood work. I'd like to raise that in regard to flood work, Council have submissions approved of over 109 million last year. Some of these have been extended or postponed from the example $30 million worth in 2024-25. And there's been new claims approved. This is a lot of money from the QRA, and we should be transparent about the revenue and expenditure. So just note that there's 8.5 million flood works for 2024-25, However, there's still considerable rollovers or extensions from 23-24, and these are not to be included in this budget. They will come in as payments, reimbursements, renew, and show up as cash flow only. And we've also had a certified agreement increases, and here we have been told the budgeting of vacant positions in our year. So do we really have to keep increasing? Do we really have to keep increasing the next budget over the CEA minimum? That's all. I just wanted to make that statement.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone wants to speak against or for? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 3.2, Adoption of the Budget 24-25. Do I have a mover? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move that pursuant to sections 169 and 170 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council's budget for the 2024-25 financial year, incorporating the Statement of Financial Position, the Statement of Cash Flow, the Statement of Income and Expenditure, the Statement of Changes in Equity, the Long-Term Financial Forecast, the Revenue Statement, the Revenue Policy, the Assessment of Business Activities to determine if they meet the threshold for classification as a significant business activity, the relevant measure of financial sustainability, the total value of the change expressed as a percentage in the rates and utility charges levied for the financial year compared with the rates and utility charges levied in the previous budget, estimated activity statement, and a capital projects and special initiatives as table be adopted.
Excuse me, Cam, you missed the second bottom line. Rates and charges.
I'll go back. Estimated activity statement and rates and charges rebate and concessions policy and capital projects as table be adopted.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vincent. Usually we would ask the mover to speak, but I'm just going to speak first, if that's all right.
That's all right.
In March, Maranoa residents overwhelmingly voted for change by voting for a new mayor and independent councillors with fresh voices and ideas. On the day I was declared mayor, I acknowledged that there will be many challenges and difficult decisions ahead, but I have made the commitment that your new council will face these issues head on, communicating openly and acting transparently, always with the region's best interests at heart. Today's budget delivers on that commitment. Over the last 8 weeks, Council has methodically and vigorously unpacked Council's financial position. Under the leadership of Acting CEO Cameron Hoffman, this being my 5th budget as a councillor, this is the most involvement councillors have had in delivering a budget. Whilst over this period I did take a leave of absence, Deputy Mayor O'Neill and Acting CEO Cameron have kept me fully abreast of the day-to-day plans, actions and outcomes of developing this budget. My core commitment as a candidate for Mayor was to restore Council's financials to a sustainable position. I have said up front that this budget forecasts a deficit. This is not what I wanted it to be, but it's a budget that had to happen this year. It is clear that the 4 years of rate freezes following a reduction in commercial, industrial, residential rates have proven to be the wrong strategy for this region. Our last year's budget promised a surplus. This paper surplus was to be achieved through cuts that were specifically being made across material services budget. In our preparation this year, it has become clear that the surplus that was quoted for 23-24 budget was buffered by a revenue that comes from state government disaster flood allocation. I don't believe this council should rely on disaster funding as a means to balance an operating budget. In my opinion, it is not that approach that sets our region up to be financially sustainable, both now and in the future. I will not do that in this budget. This budget is about being honest about where we are right now. There is a body of work that this council is yet to address, and that relates to materials and services expenses of running Maranoa Regional Council. What we could have done, but we didn't, would be simply to choose a percentage to loosely reduce the materials and services of this council. Previously, that approach has been taken. However, I would never have done that in my own businesses without detailed review, and I won't lead a council that applies this method either. Between bringing down today's budget and the first quarter review scheduled for the end of September, your council will go through line by line of materials and services expenses of running the Maranoa Regional Council. We must do this methodically to ensure we manage any impact on services that our community has come to expect to receive. While starting this budget in a deficit, it is my plan to finish this year with an operational surplus. We have reviewed our current debt with the view of trying to pay off some of our $14 million of loans. However, with the interest rates on loans being currently less than the interest we are earning on our cash at bank, we have left that at this stage. This said, we will continue to look at opportunities throughout this term if this changes. The two key elements of the budget are rates and sound capital investment. It has been clear to all that this term of council was going to have to develop a new rate strategy. Capping was recommended as being, at most, a short-term measure. It has been distorted by rating system. It has distorted our rating system by being retained for too long for the wrong reasons. We are removing the capping across all rating categories except rural, where we will maintain a 50% cap as we make the transition. This is not about revenue raising. It is about ensuring fairness for all ratepayers. No longer will a ratepayer with equal unimproved property values be paying more than another with identical unimproved property values. Because of the unfairness of the current rating, some rates will go up, but many rates will come down, some substantially so. But our strategy for rates is about more than just restoring fairness. Rates are how we invest in our future. It is important that we go to the levels of government to ask them to invest in our region, that they see we are doing our bit also. This year, in the budget that we have to have, there will be a 5% increase in the rate in the dollar for residential properties, a 5% increase in the rate in the dollar for rural properties while maintaining a 50% capping, a 15% increase in the rate in the dollar to commercial and industrial properties, and a 15% increase in the rate in the dollar to the resource sector and related properties. I know this won't come as any surprise to our Maranoa ratepayers. So many of you have told me over the last 4 years that if we're going to set our region up for our children and our grandchildren, we have to continue to invest at a rate that moves our region forward, not backwards. Your council is no different from any other business. The national inflationary pressures impact on council's ability to deliver key services to you. This is a point that so many businesses across our community have expressed to me directly, particularly over the last 2 years, where we have all experienced record rises in our economy. While we are being sensible and frugal, we are also looking responsibly to the future. This budget maintains a previous council's policy that 100% of rural rates goes to rural roads, a principle I have always supported. This budget will see an $8.4 million collected from rates join the $38 million of state and federal grants that will be spent on roads. Just some of the major projects that we will see completed are 10.5 billion to be spent on the bitumen extension on the Bollen Road, 7.3 million to be spent on the bitumen extension of both Yulbo and Surratt Road and the Redford Road. These are just 3 of almost 50 road and drainage projects that will be undertaken across the Maranoa with the $47 million program that has been allocated to this budget. This budget has committed to spend 15+ million needed to rebuild the Denise Spencer Memorial Pool. This is a generational project that our entire region will benefit from. This pool is now 50 years old and has reached the end of the Band-Aid solutions that have been applied to the pool over the last decade. I'm not criticising this approach, but the time has come to fix it. Despite the position we inherited, we are proposing a realistic and deliverable capital works program. While we cannot boast record spending in this budget, we will ensure that essential services will be maintained to the level that the community expects. At the same time, what we are able to spend has been designed to have the biggest impact across our region. 2.7 million has been allocated to almost 40 projects to improve or develop facilities across the region, including 35,000 to upgrade the Mitchell RSL complex and 45,000 to reline the Great Artesian Spa. 35,000 has been allocated to the Roma Airport Ambulance Access Autogate to speed up emergency access. This budget also commits to ongoing support for special initiatives, including the Business Excellence Program, Maranoa Business Awards, Easter in the Country, and Pinaroo in June, amongst many others. These may be small projects individually, but they are significant investments in our regional communities. It is no small task to bring together an annual budget, particularly in the year immediately after an election. I would like to thank all councillors and staff, particularly Acting CEO Cameron Hoffman, Cindy Irwin and Fleur Humphreys, for their hard work, effort and time that has gone into developing this year's budget. We have a huge task ahead of us to set our region up for the long term. I committed to you that I would communicate each step of this process, and that is what I'm going to do. Over the coming weeks, I will be writing to every single resident of our Maranoa community to explain and provide detail of the decisions that your council has made in bringing down the 24-25 budget. I will then oversee further correspondence that will go to each and every individual ratepayer and will provide you with the detail relevant to your property so that there are no surprises from the decisions brought down in this year's budget. Okay, so anyone like to speak against the budget? Anyone like to speak for the budget? Councillor Brumpton.
Thanks, Mayor Taylor. Mayor Taylor has very well articulated our budget strategy and many specific details for 2024-25. I campaigned strongly on my concerns regarding the financial position of council. Over the last weeks, in trying to determine our budget position and develop this coming budget over numerous briefing days, it has highlighted that the concerns I had were well justified. This concern was amplified by the discovery that council had received an environmental protection order during the prior term. Continued non-compliance over a number of years has meant we've had to allocate over $4.7 million to address this EPO in this budget. Despite the time spent in drilling down into the budget preparation, I know we have a way to go in determining where some of our pressure points are. And over the first quarter, as Mayor Taylor has said, we intend to put more rigour into this process. Our true budget position has meant we've had to reduce our capital spend to lower than what the community may expect. I understand from looking at the past few budgets that there have been many items that have been promised in budget papers and not delivered, and acknowledge that sadly we haven't been in a position to be able to include many of those in this coming year's budget. I'm looking forward to extra rigour being taken over the next period of time for council to be able to develop our asset plans that will assist us in a more structured way of managing both the pressures of capital spend and reducing the additional materials and services spend that can occur when assets are not replaced in a planned and timely way. I fully support where we've got to so far, but I know we've got a way to go. Thanks.
Thank you. anyone else like to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll speak in favour. I want to start my contribution to supporting this budget by highlighting that over the past 79 days, this new crop of councillors have worked tirelessly to develop this budget that is being considered this morning. In my 12 years as a councillor, I've never been involved in a budget process like this, where I truly believe we as the elected body have undertaken the most in-depth deep dive into the workings of council to fully appreciate the current state of Maranoa Regional Council and its finances, of which this new term of council inherited on election day. I feel like there has been no stone left unturned to allow all 9 councillors in this chamber to make an informed decision as to the direction our council for our community must take if we're going to set Maranoa Regional Council and our region up for a sustainable future. There is, of course, more work that needs to be done to analyse the employee costs and materials and services expenses of Maranoa Regional Council, and I agree with the strategy that this council will need to undertake a body of work across the first quarter of 24-25 financial year to methodically, line by line, review the expenses and make appropriate decisions to address spending to rein in the operating shortfall this budget results in. Whilst it's not ideal that the first budget of this term is a deficit budget, I cannot support further increasing the rate in the dollar to balance the budget, and nor could I support a strategy of simply reducing our materials and services expenses by a random percent, as has been applied in the past, without fully understanding the impact of the service level Council provides for our community. The rate increases of 5% on residential, 5% on rural while maintaining 50% capping, 15% on commercial and industrial, and 15% on oil and gas and associated businesses is a rating strategy that is required if we are going to move our region into a position that is sustainable, one that is addressing our long-term financial position. Relying on disaster flood grants from the state government as a guaranteed annual revenue stream is, in my view, reckless to any goal of setting our region up for the long term. We need to continue working on future budgets to be balanced budgets, balanced by maintaining our spending into what we can afford and recognising that all of us as ratepayers own the responsibility of setting the Maranoa region up for success, and that will only be realised with investments that manage the broader inflationary pressures our local, regional and national economies are operating in. Pleasingly, there are major projects and investment embedded in this budget, and our community will see that Council is working to deliver carryover projects from the 23-24 budget while adding some additional capital projects to address community priorities. This budget will see capital investment into the Injune Aerodrome, with $285,000 upgrading the airport's lighting, essential for users both commercial, recreational and aeromedical. Roma Airport will also see a new automatic gate installed to allow seamless access for ambulances into the facility, further supporting the great work of RFDS in providing life-saving services to our community. This budget also supports a mixture of capital investment into community facilities. Highlights for me include the $15,000 towards new carpets and internal painting of the Injune Creek Gallery, just in time for their 10-year anniversary. $35,000 for the RSL complex in Mitchell with a kiosk upgrade. This budget also includes the capital investment for the Calico Cottage precinct to the value of $4.249 million, and the upgrade to the Roma Denise Spencer Pool, a generational project that benefits the entire region. A total of $41.7 million of capital expenditure will be spent in our road networks, of which $35.9 million of that is carryover from the 23-24 budget, and it will now be achieved. There is also a significant number of key investments from an operating budget perspective. Community grants, business awards, support for Easter in the country, continuing the investment in partnership with Pinaroo, with the Injune Retirement Village, just to name a few. These are important investments and key to partnering with our community. In closing, I want to say thank you to my fellow councillors for not only supporting the development of this budget, but also for supporting me while working through the budget development as acting mayor. I also wish to thank the staff, especially Cam, Cindy and Fleur for their efforts in working with Council to bring this budget together. I am supporting this budget because it is the first step in writing the financial strategy of Maranoa Regional Council for our community. This is not about a sugar hit. I don't believe in that. It's not about being popular, but what it is doing right for our community, about setting our region up not only to cover itself, but also with the goals that we continue to invest, so that my kids and all the kids of our region can call the Maranoa home for generations to come.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Vincent?
Firstly, I'd just like to express my gratitude to CEO Cameron for his dedication to delivering this budget on time. Your professionalism and communication is exemplary. Thank you to you and your team for their commitment in providing us with all the details to allow us to make a truly informed decision, knowing the true state of affairs of our council. Now fully informed about the council's financial status, it is incumbent on us to correct the trajectory of our finances. We have worked hard as a group to ensure everybody had input on this budget, and what is before us, I can foresee a future where our financial outlook will allow us to sustainably operate and complete necessary capital projects for our community while remaining affordable for our ratepayers. We are committed to our review of the organisational structure and the materials and service expenditures line of our budget in the coming months. While removing capping, whether entirely or partially, may be viewed negatively by some who have benefited from it, we must also consider those who have been contributing more than their share while it's been in place. The proposed budget is in a deficit, which does include some one-off waste projects over $4 million to address the environmental protection order issues. The required work for this has been rapid, impactful, and consequently costly. We have more than $25 million worth of projects that were deferred or carried forward. Some of these projects have been promised for 3 years. These projects still require completion. New renewals and projects have and are accumulating behind them. Although we have a well-considered $80 million capital project list with $40 million of this for roads, one particularly exciting project awaiting budget approval today is the replacement of the Denise Spencer Pool, a significant decision for this council term. The time has come. As we've been reminded many times, there are no more Band-Aids. This is a multi-generational project, so we have taken the view to spread the cost to the ratepayers by taking out the loan. The community spoke during the election. They want financial sustainability. I know a lot of my fellow councillors stood for this, including myself. This is a budget that will assist our council to begin the turn. We cannot vote with the knowledge we now have and choose actions that would cause further detriment to the bottom line. We cannot continue to dip into our unrestricted cash, and we cannot continue to use flood money to bolster council's bottom line. We've all lived here long enough to know that dry years outnumber our wet ones, so therefore I support this budget today.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Davis.
I'd like to thank the Acting CEO and all Council staff members who have worked diligently to present councillors with a clear understanding of our current financial position and all information needed to adopt this budget today. Their hard work ensures that we have a clear understanding of where our resources are being allocated and the challenges we face both this financial year and into the future. As a new councillor, I must remark that this has been an incredibly inclusive process, with all councillors having ample opportunity to ask questions, have many rating scenarios tested, and see what impacts that has for both council and the ratepayers of the Maranoa. I am supporting a rates increase with this budget, but it is important to note that it is in an effort to make sure the Maranoa is able to continue to deliver our services now and into the future, and any less of a rates increase than what is proposed is not enough to deliver the level of service our ratepayers and residents expect. I understand that any increase in rates can be a burden, especially to those on fixed incomes or facing financial difficulties. We are committed to ensuring that support and assistance are available to those who need it. Programs are in place to help mitigate the impact on our most vulnerable residents, and we will continue to seek ways to support those who are struggling. The 5% prompt payment has been maintained in this budget as well. It is also important to recognise the alternatives. Without this increase, we would face significant cuts to essential services and the postponement of critical infrastructure projects. The long-term costs and negative impacts of such cuts far outweigh the discomfort of a rates increase. Residents and ratepayers can be confident that this council has a plan. From the long-term financial forecast, we know we need to do better business, focus on traditional functions of local government and maintain what we have. Our capital budget has been prioritised to deliver our most pressing projects. It includes $46.5 million in external funding and over $25 million in carryover from the 23-24 financial year of projects not completed or commenced. This isn't a budget of wants, it's a budget of needs, and that's why I'll be supporting this motion.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Flynn.
Thanks, Mayor Taylor. And again, in line with the other councillors, I would like to extend my thanks to the staff for the support they've given council in performing the budget detail. I suppose the things that come to my mind are simple ones. In acknowledging what Councillor Burkett said about flood money, I believe it's false budgeting because that flood money has to be spent irrespective of whether it's received and whether it's spent. The reliance on the early payment of the FAGS grant in previous budgets is also false budgeting. I guess we knew that when we came into council we were going to have some problems with regard to the financing of waste, and the situation is that that problem is much worse than any of us could have imagined. Also, I look at other levels of government kowtowing detail to our local councils, not only Maranoa Regional Council but all councils. The reliance on local councils to provide housing and to support childcare is to me a very difficult situation for any council to uphold. In supporting this budget, I certainly sympathise with anybody who's receiving rate anomalies, but the problem being that this is a budget that the Maranoa Regional Council has had to have.
Thank you, Councillor. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Seawright.
I'd just like to speak for the budget. At the same time, reiterate my thanks to Acting CEO Cam Hoffman, Cindy Irwin and Fleur Humphreys, all the executive staff and staff who have helped deliver this budget. We have unpacked, repacked and unpacked every scenario again, and I actually truly believe and thank all 8 other councillors sitting here in the chambers with me for the input they have had and how deep we have dived into getting this right for our ratepayers. Whilst it has been an inherited position for the new council, I believe we're still delivering something quite strong, even though it's running in a deficit this year. We're setting ourselves up for future benefits and getting our waste situation sorted finally. Also, any of those capital projects, well, some of them long-standing projects have been removed from our capital list. It is at a position that we actually will revisit them in future budgets. So those capital projects that have been long-standing and waiting have not been lost off our list. They're definitely there, can be revisited in future years to come when we're coming into better position.
Thank you very much. Councillor Hancock.
I address you today in support of the 2024-2025 budget, a budget that, despite its deficit, embodies a commitment to transparency and accountability that our community demanded. Gone are the days of obscured financial figures that falsely painted a picture of surplus. This budget is a testament to our pledge for openness, revealing the true financial state inherited from the previous council. A deficit born from overspending and dwindling revenues masked by promises of surplus. Before I continue, I would like to acknowledge and extend my heartfelt thanks to our dedicated staff. Their unwavering commitment and hard work have been instrumental in shaping this budget. Cam, please convey our sincere appreciation to the entire team. A special thank you to our Acting CEO Cam Hoffman, Cindy Irwin and Fleur Humphreys for their invaluable assistance throughout what has been the most rigorous and productive budget process I've experienced. In our short time at the table, this council, under the leadership of Mayor Taylor and Deputy Mayor Cameron O'Neill and Acting CEO Cam Hoffman, has embarked on a journey of clarity. We've confronted the good, the bad and the ugly of our financial landscape. No secrets, just the unvarnished truth shared openly with our community. Understanding our position, we've scrutinised past decisions that has led us here, shaping the 2024-2025 budget and charting a course for future fiscal responsibility. We now call upon our ratepayers to join us in investing in our community, accepting modest increases. Residential land rates up by 5%, averaging $45 annually or $3.75 monthly. Rural land rates also up by 5%, capped at 50%, averaging $244 annually or $20 monthly. Commercial and industrial land rates increasing by 15%, averaging $254 annually or $21 monthly. This budget carries forward numerous overdue capital projects, prioritising those promised to our community before embarking on new endeavours. We must regain our fiscal prudence, delivering within our means and resources. Exciting developments await our community, including upgrades to the Roma Pool, Surratt Lawn Cemetery, Mitchell RSL Complex upgrade to kiosks, Calico Cottage in Wallumbilla, Injune Museum co-contribution for fit-out, and refurbishment of the Yuba Fire Tower, among others. This budget also invests in upgrades to roads, waste, water and sewerage. While this budget marks a deficit, it also marks a path forward, a blueprint for financial recovery and sustainability. Hope for the future. We ask for your support on this journey, ensuring future councils inherit the resources needed to uphold our community's quality of life, a place where living, working, retiring, raising families and visiting thrive harmoniously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, awesome.
John.
Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge the enormous amount of work put in by Acting CEO Cam Hoffman and former CEO Edwina Marks and their team, Eric, Cindy, Fleur and executive staff on getting this budget to this point here today. A budget is a live document and is an estimate for the year moving forward and can change at any point in time during the various issues moving forward. We've been consistently given the green light on the key financial indicators from the Queensland Audit Office on our financials, including last year. Over the previous term, we achieved a number of key projects during very trying times, some completed, some legacy projects, and shovel-ready for to be realised, including the pump track, Mitchell Memorial Park upgrade, Injune's Chips Museum, and road upgrades like the Mitchell Bollen Road, for example, to name a few. Also, shovel-ready projects like the Calico Cottage, Ubar Development Project, Denise Spencer Pool, and Hobson's Place, and I look forward to more projects getting achieved in this term. As we go to make a final decision on the 24-25 budget here today, I feel compelled to address several crucial points that weigh heavily on my conscience as an independent representative of our community. As a second-term councillor, I've consistently stood by principles of financial responsibility in supporting local communities and businesses. These values have guided the decisions I've made for the 5 budgets and I've been involved in thus far. First, let me state, while I respect the viewpoints and opinions of my fellow councillors, I must voice my concerns on certain areas of the budget as I believe they do not align with the best interests of our ratepayers. When I stood for re-election, I publicly stated that I held firm that rates would need to increase, but some fiscal appropriate rate of 5% or aligned to CPI rather than an inflated 8% overall. I do not believe that it's Maranoa's best financial interest to increase general rates a general 3% increase across all rating categories to fund, for example, unfilled employee positions, especially for positions that we have not been actively seeking to recruit into or that will not value add to council operations or workforce. Let us not forget the challenge that we have faced in the last 4 years with COVID and cost of living pressures. In my opinion, a modest increase such as 5% or CPI would better enable our residents to adjust gradually to any financial changes. Furthermore, the suggestion of a 50% capping increase strikes me as unrealistic. While valuation remains unchanged this year, next year there is a potential for new valuation increase by DNR in our region. Should this occur, residents could face compounded financial burdens through both rate increases and raised property valuations. A more sensible approach, perhaps of a 10% adjustment this year, would be more appropriate and provide a fairer balance to our community. It's like removing every second rung of a ladder. We are losing half our safety net. The talk about needing to catch up on a hypothetical projected line doesn't make sense in my opinion. The rates were reset and we never actually lost income as we never had that money. The business kept operating, we reduced our expenses to fit, and even as councillors we voted down the wage increase each year for the term to help. By contrast, the recent decision to raise councillor wages substantially will undoubtedly impact the budget directly. The public also needs to be able to clearly clarify whether this budget includes increases to councillor conference travel and training in councillor cars. While I acknowledge the importance of fair compensation and resources, we need to commit to the utmost transparency and leadership. If ratepayers are doing it tough, we need to do it tougher. There have been continuing supply issues, price hikes, cost of living increases, business closing and vacant commercial land and buildings in our regions of late. I also note comments over recent weeks about contractors and consultants. In my opinion, council needs to access local contractors and specialists from time to time for the work that we can't do. When there are seasonal peaks and additional capacity is needed, I support local business investment. Again, we should not consider overstaffing council operations at the expense of local businesses. I believe this is anti-competitive behaviour. By the way of example, over the last 2 years and this coming year, our flood program continued to be very large, 20 million in 22-23 and 109 million in 23-24, and more claims to be submitted in the coming year. We do not have, or nor will we ever have, the full capacity to do a large program ourselves as council, so we get contractors. We also get consultants to help us with project management. This is because councils are not eligible to be funded and QRA will fund commercial consultants. It would be silly not to use them. So this means when we look at our budget for last year and this coming year, the large material and services numbers relate to our work and flood work. I believe as an independent council we should be supporting local businesses and getting specialist help when we need it. However, it must be done responsibly. Since COVID, government has thrown money at us and we don't have the time to complete the contracts in a financial year for different reasons, such as more rain events, contract availability or TMR contract timeframes. Grant funded jobs, we need to get them done, but if it's council funded, it's discretionary, which means we can determine both scope and timeframe. In big flood years last year and this year, we have minimal maintenance because we are doing flood work, which is, if done right, achieves both at a similar time and can save money in machinery mobilisation for one. Flood work is considered extraordinary maintenance and we reimburse for the work that has been undertaken. It just needs to be acquitted. For a normal year, 80% of maintenance budget is achieved. In a flood year, 20% of maintenance budget. The rest is flood money. It saves council money. Flood money this last year was more than 8 times the usual road money allocated. I also think our capital budget is extensive and we always seem to struggle to get projects completed due to various reasons often beyond our control, such as more rain events, contract availability and TMR contract timeframes. So we could easily cut more off discretionary projects as they get carried over due to the above reasons. In conclusion, I urge my fellow councillors to carefully and respectfully consider these points as we deliberate on the budget today. Each decision will affect the lives and livelihoods of those we serve, and it's our duty to uphold the highest standards of financial stewardship. I respect the viewpoints and opinions of my fellow councillors, but in voting decision results for this agenda item, I request that my voting intention is recorded in the minutes as voting against this motion.
Thank you. Councillor O'Neill, would you like to sum up?
Yeah, well, thanks very much. Thanks all councillors for your contributions today, both for and against. I suppose for me, for the 12 years I've been here and the 4 elections that I've stood for, I've stood for ensuring that Maranoa Regional Council is in a solid financial position. And that is off the back of my goal as a civic leader in this chamber and why I stood for council, that we were setting our region up for success in the long term. When I first was elected to council, I was a single guy. 12 years later, I'm married, I have a little one and another one on the way. And so my focus is only sharpened because I want to ensure that my kids can have a choice to call the Maranoa home when it's their turn to make that decision for their life. And to do that, they need a strong council, and they need a strong council that is setting their region up for success. Last year, and I acknowledge the comments that Councillor Burkett made around the flood money. Last year, if you didn't apply flood money, the flood grants to the budget, it ended up with a $6 million deficit. Now, I accept that when you apply flood money, that changes into a surplus. But that is not guaranteed revenue for our community long term. Statistically, 7 out of every 10 years are dry years. In those years, there are no flooding events. Council will not be able to access the money that we have previously received through those events to add to the operation of council. That greatly concerns me if we are going to set our region up for the long term. Our council needs to get into a position where our revenue is covering our expenses. Yes, we can reduce capital, and whilst our capital budget, I think, is sitting around $80 million this year, there are some large ticket items that have been carried over. Those projects are going to be achieved, and we're aiming to do those in this year. So I'm all for ensuring that we've got a realistic operational plan, and we've got a realistic announceables for our community in terms of the capital expenditure. Carryover is not great for our community, building confidence that council can deliver on what they say they're going to deliver. In terms of the red herring that was just thrown in there in Councillor Carr's, it's less than 4 weeks ago that we adopted the councillors' expenses policy for this year. There was no talk of allocating Councillor Carr's in that expenses. Nothing has changed from the previous term, so that is simply a red herring. In relation to the comments that were made in respect to councillor remuneration, councillors have equalised the recommendations that have been provided by the independent tribunal that have been recommended for the last 4 years, and they are in this year's budget. That isn't the reason that we're sitting in a deficit. There are inherent reasons as to why we have had to bring down a deficit budget this year. Councillor Brumpton spoke to one of those, and that's the one-off projects that need to occur around our waste facilities due to the environmental protection order that this council inherited. And I say that this council inherited because I wasn't aware of it and I was a previous councillor. And so we are taking our role seriously in making sure that we are addressing the concerns that have been raised by that environmental protection order to get our waste facilities up to scratch. And that is why we've had to embed $4.7 million of one-off projects into the operating budget for 2024-25. For those that are listening to the proceedings today, I encourage you to go and have a look at the extensive financials that are included in this budget, as they are included in every other budget that I have been involved in. Council, as part of this budget, if it's resolved to adopt today, is forecasting by June of 2027 financial year, we will be back in a positive position for our region. I think that is an incredible step forward in making sure that our region is in the best financial position in the long term. We have all but 4 years as councillors to make the decisions on behalf of our community. And I don't know about you, but at the end of this term in 2028, I want to make sure that we're leaving this council and our community in a far better place than when we started in 2024. That's been my commitment each and every time that I've stood for council, and I suspect it is yours too. And so this budget is the step in the right direction. It is obviously not ideal to be bringing down a deficit budget. We have a mountain of work that councillors will undertake over the next quarter to look at the materials and services and the employee costs that make up the expenses side of the ledger when it comes to managing Maranoa Regional Council's finances. And I look forward to communicating that with the Maranoa community as we undertake that work. We have all committed to stepping out of this room and traversing the region and meeting with our community to explain the decisions that we've had to make. And I think that's open and transparent and really important that we're taking our community on the journey and they understand the financial position of council. So I strongly urge councillors to support this budget because it's setting our region up in the right direction and it's one step at a time and this is the first step.
Thank you, councillor. Okay, on that note, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? 8-1 if I can call for a division. Moving on to 3.3. The debt borrowing policy 2024-25. Councillor Brompton.
I'd like to move that council adopt the debt borrowing policy for 24-25 with the following amendment. Under proposed borrowings external table of page 3, a second dot point under the NB be added that notes that council intends to review the asset management plans and will review and adjust the 2026-27 and forward years proposed borrowings once that review has occurred.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder? Councillor Hancock, would you like to speak to the motion?
Yes, I would. Thanks, Mayor Taylor. The debt borrowing policy as presented reflects substantial loans into the future for infrastructure assets such as water, sewerage and gas. I'd like to emphasise that these borrowings were projected in the debt policy of the previous term of council and reflected the asset management plans in place at the time. As highlighted in my points of note in the previous agenda item and other councillors and mayor's points, council intend to rigorously review the asset management plans, and once these have been given the attention they need and deserve, we will be in a position to review the debt borrowing policy in line with a more fiscally responsible asset policy. The budget timeline did not allow us to develop this in time for this current budget cycle. Hence, I wanted that note placed into that policy.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
I've got a further amendment. Just on page 75, 75 of what we've got in front of us, where it's got proposed borrowings external, the 24-25 of the $7.5 million for the pool, that term, from my recollection, is 15 years, not 20.
Yes, I agree with that as the mover. Yeah.
Yeah, through the Mayor. Council's office has presented two options for that, 15 years and 20 years, initially 20, but obviously the 15 years attracts a lot less interest over the term, and so it's council's decision for the term, but the two options were presented there for 15 and 20.
Okay, so we'll put that in.
I'm happy to amend my motion to include that change to page 75.
Okay, were you seconding it?
No, Councillor Hancock.
Councillor Hancock was. Seconding, okay. Anyone else like to speak?
I'll speak.
Yes.
I'm supportive of the debt borrowing policy. I also think that by us having a look at the debt borrowing policy this year and making some suggestions about how it's illustrated, I think is more open and transparent in terms of, you know, where it's got sewage, water, gas, pool, and the term, etc. I think having that those titles there point people directly to what those borrowings are for. I think the suggestion and further amendment that Councillor Brompton has put forward is a good one. We've got a body of work to do around our asset management. And to highlight to the community that whilst we're adopting that this year as it's presented, there is some work that's going to occur for us to have a look at that. So I'm very supportive of the motion.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Do you want to sum up, Councillor? You're right.
I don't think there's any need to.
We'll
Thank
go to
you.
the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. 3.4, investment policy. Do I have a mover? Councillor Vincent.
I move that council adopt the investment policy as presented.
Have a seconder? Councillor Burke. Would you like to speak?
No.
Anybody like to speak? Going to go to the vote? All those in favour? 9-0. .5, dividend payment policy. Councillor O'Neill.
I'll move that the council adopt the dividend policy for 2024 with the following amendment. In section 4 of the policy, the definitions for operating project and operating loss would be updated to be excluding depreciation.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Davis. Would you-
Sorry, councillor O'Neill, you said operating project, you mean operating profit? You said project rather than profit.
I thought I just read what was up there.
No.
Operating profit and operating loss. Thanks, councillor Brumpton.
Would anybody like to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I will. Thanks very much, Mayor. 12 months ago when this was debated in the chamber, I voted against it because I didn't like how the policy stood at the time. I think this policy is now strengthened by the statement which appears on page 2 of the policy, which I'd like to read. The statement is the dividend policy to apply to the various council businesses is 1, where an operating profit is realised. A dividend will be paid to council after adjusting for any net funding for capital works. B, this dividend will be recorded and reported as a reserve per business unit as defined in section 2 of this policy. 2, where an operating loss is realised, A, the shortfall in the first instance will be funded by any cash balance from within the specific business unit reserve, and B, if not, a community service obligation will be provided to the business unit after adjusting for net funding of capital works. I believe this policy is being strengthened by including particularly section 1, which points directly to the per business unit reserves. Having that as part of how we operate as a council and we report ensures that our business units and the external ones that get most interest in our community are the sale yards, the quarry and the airport, where those business units are operating with a surplus, that surplus is put away into a reserve that is allocated solely for that business unit to invest into the future. And I think that will illustrate to the community the strength of those business units of council. Very proudly, in previous terms, the Roma Airport operated with significant surpluses, which allowed us to put money away into reserves. So when there was capital improvements that were required on that facility, the broader rate base were not burdened by that investment. It was drawn from those reserves. In fact, we leveraged significant government support with the contribution that council was able to draw on from the reserves with the most recent upgrade that was undertaken on the airstrip in the term before last at the Roma Airport. And so I'm supportive of the dividend policy as it stands with those amendments, and I urge all councillors to vote in favour of it.
Are you right, Councillor Burke? Have you got the paperwork?
No, but I'm just listening. Cameron's talking about it.
Would anyone else like to speak? Councillor Hancock.
Thanks, Mayor. I'd just like to speak in favour of this policy as well. Originally, when it came to the table last time, I too voted against it because I didn't think that it strengthened our business units. I didn't think it was an accurate record of our reserves for our business units. I'm supportive of the policy now as it stands with the addition of the wording that Councillor O'Neill has just read out, because I think our business units are really important and I think that they should be making a profit, and that profit should be put away so that we can reinvest back into those business units. And so I will support the policy as it stands today with the added amendments that Councillor O'Neill has read out.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? You want to sum up? You're right. Going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Three point six, utilities debt recovery policy. Councillor Seawright.
I move that the council adopt the utilities debt recovery policy as presented.
Have a seconder? Councillor Burkett, would you like to speak? Councillor, anyone like to speak? Going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Three point seven, rates and charges rebate and concessions policy. Do I have a mover? Councillor Hancock.
I move that council adopt the rates and charges rebate and concessions policy as presented.
I have a seconder. Councillor Brompton. Anyone like to speak? Going to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Three point eight, differential general rating categories and description 2024-25. Do I have a mover? Councillor Vincent.
I only have to say the table below, don't I?
Yeah. No.
That's why nobody moved.
I move that council, 1, pursuant to section 81 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the categories into which rateable land is categorised, the description of those categories, and pursuant to the sections 81 number 4 and 81 number 5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the method by which land is to be identified and included its appropriate category below, and 2, delegate the Chief Executive Officer the power pursuant to section 81.4 and 81.5 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 to identify the rating category to which each parcel of rateable land belongs as per table A below.
I have a seconder. Councillor Seawright. Would you like to speak to the motion?
No, thank you.
Anyone like to speak? Okay, going to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0. Three point nine, differential general rates 2024-25. Do I have a mover? Councillor Seawright.
We'll catch up there. I move that the pursuant to section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and section 80 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential general rate to be made and levied for each differential general rate category, and pursuant to the section 77 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the minimum general rate to be made and levied for each differential general rate category be set out in the table below.
Seconder. Councillor Davis. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
No.
Anyone like to speak?
I just want to speak against just as 8% revenue increase. It's the same as what I mentioned earlier. The previous council's long-term financial plan supported the 5% increase in rates in the coming year. So this is including the resource sector. I think that the 5% is all that is necessary. We should be tightening our belts, and in times like it's not unrealistic rate hikes. 8% is too high.
Okay. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor O'Neill?
I'll speak. I'm in favour of this, and you only have to look at the bottom line when it came to the 10-year forecast from last year's budget, where the majority of the next 10 years were deficits. We need a strategy to ensure that we're setting our region up for the long term, and that is the strategy that was moved in an earlier item today.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Hancock.
Here, I'll speak. We looked at this and looked at this. We looked at different scenarios. We talked about this until we were blue in the face. This wasn't a decision that this council has taken lightly to add to go with the rate increase that we've gone with. And I think we all spoke fairly solid about the reasons individual councillors were supporting it or not supporting it. But on an average, I understand that times are tough out there for our community. We are also part of our community. But on an average, our residential land rates up by 5%, averaging $3.75 a month increase. Rural land rates also up by 5%, capped at 50%, averaging $20 increase, a monthly increase. Commercial and industry land rates increasing by 15%, averaging $21 monthly increase. I understand that the pressures are out there for our community. We haven't taken this decision lightly. We have done this in the best interest of the overall community and taking in regards to where our community sits now, but also to set it up for future.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Councillor Brompton.
In support of those others that have spoken for this motion, I also speak for the motion. And with the averages being averages, we looked at, and as we discussed, we looked at many scenarios. What we also have to remember is that prior to the 4 years of rate freezes, there was a 65% reduction in commercial and industrial rates and a 25% reduction in residential rates. So we looked at some individual scenarios. For example, an average ratepayer in the town of Roma who, with the 25% reduction, had a $360 per annum reduction in their rates. They then had a freeze for 4 years, and now we've put their rates up by 5%, which is $36. So they had a $360 reduction, which was then held for 4 years, and now we've only put it up by $36. We looked at some commercial and industrial sites. Some of those with their 65% reduction, they were paying $10,500 approximately. I can't remember the exact dollars, but they were paying $10,500. They then had a 65% rate reduction. We had 4 years of rate freezes. We had huge CPI increases. Even with a 15% rate increase this year, their rates have now gone to about $2,500. They were paying $10,500. They've had 4 years of rate freezes. They've had a 15% increase. They are still now only paying $2,500. We have to be a fiscally responsible council. As individual budget holders of our own budgets, we know that that is not sustainable, that when your price increases are going up of what you buy, you have to have more inputs to pay for it. So the wage earner gets their EBA increases, enterprise bargaining that is. We need to actually be realistic about what we're doing so that we can set this council up as a sustainable future.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Okay, who moved that? Who did move that? Sorry.
Councillor Searard.
Do you want to speak? Do you want to sum up?
I just want to sum up in regards that, along the same lines, iterate what Councillor O'Neill, Councillor Hancock, Councillor Brumpton have all said. This is required to, whilst it's the percentage seems high, the actual numbers averaging low. We do believe, obviously, some will be, hit harder than others, but coming off the back of rate freezes and the reductions that have been spoken about, we believe, like through the council, we've done a severe amount of workshopping on this, that this is a smaller amount that we could have in regards to other options we had, just to start to bring us back closer to having a fiscally responsible council, to keep bringing forward and move us into a black scenario versus a red scenario all the time.
Very good, thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Oh no, you summed up, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, all those in favour? Against? 8-1 if I can call for a division. 3.10, setting the limit of increase in the amount of general rates 2024-25. Do I have a mover?
Yeah, I'm prepared to move this motion. I move that council, as required by section 172(2) of the Local Government Regulation 2012, but subject to paragraphs A to B below, records that pursuant to section 116 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the amount of the differential general rate to be levied for the 2024-25 financial year on the categories of land identified in the table below be limited to amount of no more than an amount equal to the amount of general rate levied on that land in the previous financial year increased by the percentage in Table 1 below. In Table 1 below, I would note a 50% cap on categories 10 to 14, which pertains to rural rates, and also 81 and 82, a 50% cap, which also pertains to rural rating valuations.
Isn't there more over the page? Okay, page
Do I need to
160.
read item 2 there? Yeah, that item 2, section 2, the limitation of the increase in the differential general rate will not apply to land where there has been a change in valuation other than the revaluation of the entire local government area during the current or previous financial year, or there has been a change in the land area during the current or previous financial year, unless that change is the result of council or a state government entity acquiring by agreement or compulsory acquisition part of a parent parcel, thus creating a new rateable assessment, the original parcel less the part required, in which case a limit on any increase will continue to apply to the new rateable assessment. Or C, a discounted valuation under Chapter 2, Section 50 of the Land Valuation Act 2010 has ceased. Or D, there has been a change in the differential rating category of the land during the 2024-25 financial year. Or E, the differential rating category of the land in 2023-24 financial year changes in the 2024-25 year. For land on which the rate levied for the previous financial year was for a period less than the full year, the differential general rate for the previous year will be annualised, and the limitation applied to the annualised amount in accordance with Section 1162B2 of the Local Government Regulation 2012.
Have a seconder? Councillor Seawright. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Flynn?
No,
You're right.
Madam Mayor, I think everything's pretty well set out in that motion.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent.
Can I just have a look at line 9 of the table? Just to make sure it had the change. Yeah, that's right. The no cap, yeah.
You're right. Anybody like to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll speak. Over the last 8 weeks, Council has, as I have already articulated in addressing 3.2, spent the right amount of time, which is more than ever, that I've experienced in looking at the financial position of Council. And one of the scenarios that has been applied, not just in the last term, but it dates back into the term before that, was capping. And I was on council when we introduced capping in 2009 to the rural categories, and we did so because no one could forecast when the drought was going to break. And our rural community had seen unapproved land valuations increase, even though there were no sales occurring within the Maranoa Regional Council area. And so Council adopted the stance then, and it wasn't zero capping, so that the impact on the rural ratepayers, given the severity of the drought, was somewhat mitigated. Last term, there was a different strategy where all categories were capped. And what has transpired, particularly in the rural categories of council, what's transpired is that there are ratepayers, as the Mayor articulated in her address, that are on equal unimproved value, but are not paying equal rates for the same parcel of land for the same value. There is an inequity issue amongst the categories and ratepayers within those categories of the Maranoa Regional Council. This council is working towards removing capping on all categories bar rural, and we are reducing it to 50%. By doing that, it is no significant impact on the bottom line in terms of the revenue that's generated by rates to council. But what it will do is introduce a more fair and equitable rating scenario for our ratepayers, where the ratepayers that have been capped and are not paying what they should because of that capping are in fact paying more than those that have been held at a much lower level. And by staging the removal on capping, we are going to see a circumstance where rural ratepayers are more fair and equitable. And it took, for me as a decision maker here, some time to get my head around that. And we are going to, as a council, go out to our community and illustrate the facts of what capping has done with the large increases in valuations over the last few years. And the disparity has to be reined in, because it is only fair and equitable as the ratepayers who are the investors into this region know what's happening. Whilst we have looked at scenarios that would see the removal of all of the capping in 1 year, the impact was too great. But a staged approach where it's 50% is the right scenario. And we will have many more conversations with our community over the coming months to explain the material impact at a granular level on those ratepayers. And so that's why I'm supporting item 3.10.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Councillor Seawright.
In support of Councillor O'Neill's speech just then, we did test several models. We staged it as example 25%, and in support that the looking at that 25% capping, removal of 25% of the capping, it will skew the figures, especially with land valuations due next year, and unsure which way they would turn us. It would take several years for those who are actually paying more than they should be to come back to a level where it is fair and equitable across the entire rural land scenario. So 50%, we believe, was actually a good place to start to get everyone close to where they should be.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak? Councillor Vincent.
Yeah, I'd just like to speak on this one. I'm a new councillor. I had no idea about how the capping worked and what the capping did. As Councillor O'Neill, it does not make too much difference to the council's bottom line whether capping's on or off, but it does make a real difference to the inequity for our ratepayers. We've got some ratepayers paying a lot more than they should, and others not paying, investing in our community as much as they should. Going on Councillor Seawright's comments in regards to the different scenarios that we did look at with the 25%, and with the expecting the reevaluation next year would skew the figures even further. So I think we have taken an overall view, and this was the best option for us to go forward with.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak?
Just in summing up, I would like to say that, like most other councillors...
Councillor Flynn, if you're... Councillor Burkett, I think, wants to speak.
No, you're right, you can go first.
Grab the mic there too, but I'd like to speak against for previous reasons as well. But I just want to say evaluations do frustrate me, because at the end of the day, it's one person's opinion, and they're like God, which I don't agree with. Also, ratepayers got caught out when they amalgamated blocks. They had to come back to council because there were some massive changes because they lost their history and stuff like that. Through the last term, we heavily debated capping and not capping, and one model was proposed for 2% to remove it by 2%, and that didn't get up last term. So the state government sets its valuation values, and capping was a tool to reduce the big swings and rises. And valuation will stay the same this year at 0 increase. So why not a consistent long-term strategy? 50% capping release is not good financial management of rates and not necessary to be so high. We could have responsibly done this for 10% lift of capping over 10 years and still be on track.
Thank you. Councillor Hancock?
Thank you. I think Councillor O'Neill has explained this really well to the community with what he said. But for me personally, I have struggled when I got into council and learnt that there was so much difference between what a property owner with the same land valuation are paying. There is, in some cases, there is thousands of dollars difference, yet the land is of the same value. The inequity of that I have really struggled with. Capping is something we've been talking about for the 4 years, and we're still talked about it this year. And we did, pull in an expert, and we had lots of scenarios that we went through, and we talked about it, and we just believe that this is the year to reduce it to the 50%. Because next year there could be another valuation where land increases go up, and that will be a harder hit for our community. We have decided this to try and support our community in taking off capping on our rates. And so I actually do believe that this decision is actually the best decision in trying to support our community, and especially our rural community, in being able to afford this. I acknowledge that there will be people that their rates are going up, but there will be people that their rates are going down. And what that means is that it is the equity is getting closer together. The ones that are going up, they've been paying the lesser amount for many years. So that has been able to set them up for the future. The ones that are going down, they've probably been paying more than what they should have over many years. So they are probably due for this reduction. So I do believe that this is the most fairest way to set our council up for the future and support our rural landowners to be able to pay their rates based on the rate in the dollar.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Flynn, do you want to sum up?
Yeah, just in summing up, what I was going to say was the fact that being on council when capping was introduced, it was quite hard to understand, and I guess it's still pretty hard to understand given the effect of valuations each second year and the effect it has on capping and the effect it has on actual rating categories. But what I would say in response to Councillor Burkett's situation with regard to 10% over 10 years, we're only given the mandate to talk about the next 4 years, and I believe that the 50% capping is responsible.
Yeah, thank you very much. We all good? We go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? 8, 1 if I can call for a division. I'm up to 3.11?
Yep.
3.11, water utility charges 2024-25. Councillor Davis.
I'd like to move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, Council make and levy water utility charges for the supply of water services by Council as set out in the table below. Pursuant to Section 102.2 of the Local Government Regulations 2012, a water meter is taken to have been read during the period that starts 2 weeks before and ends 2 weeks after the day on which the meter is actually read.
Thank you. A seconder, Councillor Brumpton. Would you like to speak?
I would, just quickly. It's an increase of 5% for our water charges. It actually equates to about 5 cents per kilolitre. I feel that it is needed. The people, that value their lawn will absolutely pay the extra 5%. I think it is in line with where we're heading and we need to increase our charges.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
I've got an amendment, if I can. Just at the back end of everything, that council, how did it start, sorry, Cal?
Pursuant.
That.
So it'll be that council, and we'll start with council.
No.
Oh yeah, that could work. And then it'll be number 2, I suspect.
Three.
3. The council develop a policy within the first quarter of 2024-25 budget to address the access charges to vacant land.
Yeah, I agree. Councillor Davis.
Thank you, I'm happy with that.
I'm happy with any other suggestions.
Well, I was just going to make a statement, but I'm support. I was on the fence with this because of the increase. But can we, with the policy, can we also add in some way to incentivise people, because we are putting it up and we're already trying to get people to look after their town beautification. Because we're putting it up, we still need to somehow incentivise them to address that issue, like trying to get them to water their footpaths or even water their own lawns. So whether that just gets brought up as a agenda item at a later date.
So maybe it's change the word, not develop, consider a policy within the first quarter of 24-25 to address the charges to access land and look at methods to incentivise
Beautification.
Town beautification.
town
The ratepayer.
Or water, because it's in one way, it's
individual town and individual property beautification.
Yeah.
That's what you're trying to
Yeah,
address.
yeah. Disco going on next.
Councillor Davis,
That's
you
my
happy with that?
amendment.
I'm happy with your amendment.
That's the whole thing.
Yep, I'm happy with the amendment, number 3.
You right?
And I was the seconder, I think, so I'm okay with that. Was I the seconder? Yeah, I think I was.
Okay. Would you like to? Oh, you did speak. You want to?
Yep.
Anyone else like to speak?
I'll speak. The reason for the addition is that there have been issues raised over the last 12 months in relation to the charges that council has in respect to the vacant land and access, where people in fact aren't actually accessing water. And I think it is responsible of this term of council to have a look at that issue. Equally, I'm happy to have also in there the consideration of a policy that looks at ways to incentivise town and individual beautification. We talk about that often as a council. How can we, as a council, on our own land, increase the aesthetics, particularly on the entrances to our town? But if there is a way that we can also support our ratepayers and residents of the Maranoa to do the same, then I think council should look at that as a broader policy, and it'll be drafted, considered, and debated at a later date.
Very good. Councillor
I'm
Brompton.
sorry, can I suggest a change where in number 3 to incentivise town and individual property beautification? I'm not sure we can actually look at, just to make it clear we're talking about
Yeah, not people.
not people.
Tell them to put their makeup on or something.
Very good. All right.
You just got to check with the
You've got
mover
to
and the
check with the
second.
mover.
I'm good with
Everybody
And
happy
I'm
with
the
that? Okay.
seconder.
Councillor Hancock.
I'm going to support this, but I just want to be clear for me, this isn't about revenue raising. This is simply about covering our costs to do business in our community and setting our community up for the future.
Councillor Burke.
Like I said, I was on the fence because it is another little price rise and I understand Councillor Hancock's comment then, but the general punter probably won't. They'll just see it's another increase. But if we can somehow show that we're looking to address those issues that we got in number 3, I think it'll go a long way. And I've been passionate about town beautification. If you go back historically, when there was no water meters, it's probably wasting water, but at least, and I think we're the only shire in Queensland, or one of, that mow footpaths. So if we can get them to take over that ownership and look after their front verges or whatever, it's going to eventually save us some money. But also, if they know that if they look after it, one, they're beautifying their area, but they might get something in return. So I'm fully supportive of that now, as it stands.
Very good. Would you like to sum up, Councillor Davis?
Just to say that it is the water utility charge. We're not talking about mowing footpaths or anything like that. We are just simply doing the 5% increase as it stands.
Very good. All right, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 9-0.
Madam Mayor, I'm going to have to be excused from the meeting.
Um, 3.12, sewage utility charges 2024-25. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council makes and levies sewage utility charges for the supply of sewage services by the council set out in table below. The table below, sorry.
That's it. Have a seconder? Councillor Seawright. And would you like to speak, Councillor Burkett?
No, thanks.
Anybody like to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. Three 3.13, waste management utility charges 2024-24. 25. Councillor Vincent.
I'd like to move that 1, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 99 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy waste management utility charges for the supply of waste management services, including the collection, removal, storage and disposal of general waste by the Council as set out in the table below. 2, waste management utility charges are levied on all premises where Council's agent is prepared to provide a refuse collection service. A minimum of 1 charge will be made and levied on each separate occupancy, and such a charge shall apply whether or not the service is rendered.
I have a seconder. Councillor Seawright. Would you like to speak to it, Councillor Vincent? Would anybody like to speak? We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. 3.14, pest management special rate 2024-25. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you. I'll move that a special rate be. Is that her?
To section
No.
94.
Sorry. I'll move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a special rate in 2024-25 as follows. Pest Management Special Rate A. A special rate to be known as the Pest Management Special Rate of 0.000104 cents in the dollar on the unimproved capital value of all rateable land to which the overall plan applies to fund the cost of pest management, including pest animals and pest plants across the Maranoa. The overall plan for the pest management special rate is as follows. A, the service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is the cost of pest animals and pest plants management across the Maranoa, including meat and factory baits for 2 coordinated wild dog baiting programs and ad hoc baiting, wild dog bonus payment for scalps, and the treatment of high priority pest plants in accordance with Council's pest management plan. That'll be B. The rateable land to which the special rate applies is all rateable land categorised as Category 10, rural 80 to 1,000 hectares, through to Category 15, rural more than 50,000 hectares, Category 81, rural more or equal to $11 million and less than 16.5 million, and Category 82, rural more and equal above 16.5 million in the 2024-25 financial year. C, the estimated cost of carrying out the activity The subject of the overall plan is $620,000. The pest management special rate will be levied an estimated $496,000 towards the total estimate cost of carrying out the activity. D, the estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. The rateable land or its occupier specially benefits from the service, facility or activity funded by the special rate because it will provide management of pests, both animal and plant, so as to improve the agricultural activities on the land, which will increase productivity for landholders.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Brompton, would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. I was happy to move this, and I'm supporting it this year, which is not what I did in the previous year, because in previous years it ended up being 100% of the cost being allocated to the rural rate base. In the past, it has been a shared arrangement between rural ratepayers and other categories within Maranoa Regional Council, and I'm pleased that at least this year we're moving back to an 80-20% arrangement where 80% will be borne by the rural ratepayers and 20% will come from general revenue. I think that illustrates to our entire community that whether you are on a rural property or you live within town, as I do, we are supportive of addressing pest management across our entire region. I think this is getting to a place where it's more fair and equitable. I'd like to see it grow, the percentage again, so that it is less of a percent being borne by the rural rate base and more coming from general revenue. We all can see that the financial constraints that we're currently managing as Maranoa Regional Council, and this wasn't the year to expand that further, but this is a step in the right direction, and I urge all councillors to support it because it is an illustration to our rural ratepayers that the entire region is investing in the pest management activities that our council will undertake for the coming 12 months.
Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Brompton.
I would like to speak in support of this motion as well, for the same reasons that Councillor O'Neill spoke about, and recognising that whilst we're talking about pests on rural lands, urban ratepayers have an impact on pests in rural lands as well. There are wild dogs, some of who have come from towns. There are weeds spread by urban ratepayers as well, so I think it's only fair that the urban ratepayers also contribute towards this levy. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent.
Yes, I'd like to speak in support of this motion. I am in agreement that the cost should be shared. It's fair that 80% has gone to the rural ratepayer. They do benefit the most, but we do have to acknowledge that they do spend their money in town, so it does benefit our urban businesses, and also the effect, we've got huge road reserves that have weeds on them. I've recently been to a cemetery and found weeds there. So that all comes out of that bucket as well, and so therefore I feel that the entire rate base should participate in this fee as well.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor Searight.
I speak for this motion. I do believe it is required, and obviously, the control of pests in our rural lands is definitely an issue. I agree with Councillor Brompton and Vincent in the regards that obviously some of these pests are brought forward and into our rural lands via the urban communities. Also, want to acknowledge that possibly in a future report we may. That should come to council in regards to the combined properties on one rates notice, that there is an issue with property owners accessing only one set of baits for the year. So in a future report, hopefully we can actually look at that as well to support our rural land people with separate area properties a little bit better in that area.
Good, thank you. Yeah. Anyone else like to speak? Who moved that?
Me.
Oh, do you want to sum up?
I'm okay.
I've got to learn to remember that. All right, let's go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. 3.15, State Government Precept Special Rate 2024-25. Do I have a mover? Councillor Brompton.
I move that pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a special rate as follows. State Government Precept Special Rate. A special rate to be known as the State Government Precept Special Rate of 0.000095 cents in the dollar on the unimproved capital value of all rateable land to which the overall plan applies to fund the cost of the state government precept charge, research and on-ground works. B, the overall plan for the state government precept special rate is as follows. A, the service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is the cost of the state government precept for the wild dog barrier fence, pest and weed research and on-ground works. B, the rateable land to which the special rate applies is all rateable land categorised as Category 10, rural 80 to 1,000 hectares, through to Category 15, rural greater than 50,000 hectares. Category 81, rural greater than or equal to $11 million and less than $16.5 million. And Category 82, rural greater than or equal to $16.5 million in the 2024-25 financial year. C, the estimated cost of carrying out the overall plan is $448,738. The state government precept special rate will levy an estimated $448,738 towards the total estimated cost of carrying out the activity. D, the estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. The rateable land or its occupier specially benefits from the service, facility or activity funded by the special rate because it will provide maintenance and renewal of the wild dog barrier fence and pest and weed research, including on-ground works, which is provided by the Department of Agriculture and Fisheries, DAF, so as to improve the agricultural activities on the land, which will increase productivity for landholders.
Have a seconder? Councillor Seawright, would you like to speak to it, Councillor?
I think it's self-explanatory. Thank you.
Definitely is. Anyone else like to speak? Going to go to the vote? All those in favour? 8-0. $3.16, Rural Fire Brigade Special Charge 2024-25. Councillor Seawright.
I move that 1, pursuant to Section 94 of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 94 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council make and levy a special charge to be known as the Rural Fire Brigade Special Charge for 2024/25 as detailed in the table below on all rateable land serviced by the Rural Fire Brigades for Amby, Mungalala, Yulbar and Orange Hill to contribute to the operational costs of firefighting and the ongoing provision and maintenance of rural firefighting equipment for the Rural Fire Brigades as follows. Amby, do I need to read this? It's
No,
Amby
as per
7.
the table.
Okay, cool. As per the table. 2, the overall plan for the Rural Fire Brigade's special charge is as follows. A, the service, facility or activity for which the plan is made is to contribute to the operational costs of firefighting and the ongoing provision and maintenance of rural firefighting equipment for the Rural Fire Brigades that operate throughout the areas of Amby, Mungalala, Yulbar and Orange Hill. B, the rateable land to which the plan applies is all rateable land defined by Queensland Fire and Emergency Services, QFES, Rural Fire Service as being serviced within each Rural Fire Brigade boundary, as identified in the QFES administration map for each brigade. C, the estimated cost of carrying out all overall plan is $20,504. D, the estimated time for carrying out the overall plan is 1 year. 3, the rateable land or its occupier specially benefit from the service, facility or activity funded by the special charge because these local Rural Fire Brigade units respond to emergency fire calls.
Thank you. Have a seconder? Councillor Burkett. Would you like to speak, Councillor Seawright?
I do believe this charge benefits all areas, not just rural land. It does support the Rural Fire Brigade does support even just your urban areas. They are a great asset to our communities and can be counted on in times of need. So I believe these charges, as last last financial year. They have not gone up. That was in consultation with QFES, and they set as standard as per the last budget. I would note that I do believe QFES will be now known as QFS moving forward as well.
Anyone else like to speak? Going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. .17, levy and payment of rates and charges 2024-25. Councillor Burkett.
I'd like to move that, one, pursuant to section 107 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 and section 114 of the Fire and Emergency Service Act 1990, council's rates and charges and the state government's emergency management, fire and rescue levy be levied for the first half year 1st of July 2024 to the 31st of December 2024 in August, September 2024, and for the first half year 1st of January 2025 to 30th of June 2025 in February, March 2025. 2, pursuant to sections 118 of the Local Government Regulation 2012 that council's rates and charges and the state government's emergency management, fire and rescue levy be payable within 30 calendar days after the issue of the rates notice.
Have a seconder? Councillor Vincent, would you like to speak, Councillor Burkett?
No, thanks.
Anybody like to speak? Going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. .18, total value of change in rates and utility charges. Do I have a mover? Councillor Brompton. Sorry.
I move that council, pursuant to section 169.6 and 169.7 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, that doesn't make sense. I move that council, I move that pursuant, so we move the word council. Pursuant to section 169.6 and 169.7 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the total value of the change expressed as a percentage in the rates and charges budgeted to be levied for the 2024 financial year compared with the rates and charges budgeted to be levied in the 23-24 financial year is 8%. For the purpose of this calculation, any discounts and rebates are excluded.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Hancock, like to speak?
I'd just like to say that, I mean, we have discussed this percentage in detail in previous agenda items. This is the average. We've talked about 5% over some areas, 15% over some, 15% over some. This is just what the bottom line then calculates to as a percentage in total of the increase when you take into account which areas are levied to what area. So we have spoken in detail about those individual percentages, so I won't go into more detail about that.
Thank you. Councillor Vincent.
Can I just suggest we do put that either that council adopt the following or at the bottom is adopted by council?
Yeah, it didn't make sense the way it was said, but yeah, that
council adopt the following.
Adopt the following one pursuant to, yes.
Happy with that?
Yes.
Yep. Did we have a seconder?
Yes, it was me.
Councillor Burkett, did you second that?
No, I did.
Oh, you do, sorry. Councillor Hancock, sorry. Oh, yeah. Would you like to speak?
I agree, Councillor Brumpton. We have all fully spoken about the rates and the amounts. I just would like to also inform the community that part of our process is we ask the CEO to provide us with a document to tell us where in Queensland do we sit within the rates? Are we high? Are we low? Are we in the middle? That documentation has come back and we sit somewhere in the middle. So I just wanted to let the community know that once again, there was a lot of work and a lot of thought processing, a lot of information gathering to get to the decision we've made with our rates today.
Anybody else like to speak? Would you like to sum up, Maranoa?
I don't think there's any need.
Let's go to the vote. All those in favour? Against? 7-1 if I can call for a division. 3.19, discount on rates 24-25. Do I have a mover? Councillor Davis.
I'd like to move that pursuant to section 130 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the differential rate, general rates made and levied shall be subject to a discount of the percentage set out in the table below. Discount on differential general rates, 5%. If paid within the discount period of 30 days of the date of issue of the rate notice, provided that all the aforementioned rates and charges are paid within 30 days of the date of issue on the rate notice. B, all other rates and charges appearing on the rates notice that are not subject to the discount are paid within 30 days of the date of issue on the rates notice. And C, all other overdue rates and charges relating to the rateable assessment are paid within 30 days of the date of issue of the rates notice.
Have a seconder? Councillor Seawright, would like to speak?
No, it's pretty straightforward.
Anybody like to speak? Go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. .20, interest on all overdue rates and charges for 2024-25. Do I have a mover? Councillor Bogut.
I'd like to move that pursuant to section 133 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, the level of interest is set as 1, compound interest on daily rests at the rate per annum set out in table below, interest on all overdue rates and charges, 11%. 2, and is to be charged on all overdue rates on all charges. Council has determined the rates and all charge will remain outstanding for 60 days. After the date of issue of the rates notice will occur interest.
I have a seconder. Councillor O'Neill. Would you like to speak, Councillor Burkett? Anybody? Councillor O'Neill.
I'm happy to second this and support it. This is a sizable increase to the percentage that had been previously charged over the last term of council. In fact, I think the last term of council, from memory, it sat around 4%. Increasing it to 11% is fair because if, as a ratepayer, if you pay your rates on time, this figure will never come into play. And Maranoa Regional Council should be supporting our ratepayers that pay on time, that are investing in their community. We need to have an incentive in place not to have overdue rates. And at 11%, given where interest rates are across the economy, I think that this is an appropriate level for 2024-25, and I'm more than happy to support it.
Anybody else? Councillor Vincent.
Yeah, I'm happy to support this one as well. Following on from Councillor O'Neill, our ratepayers do not need to pay this fee. This is only there for overdue outstanding for 60 days. At the 4% rate, we're probably cheaper to owe us money rather than owing the actual bank money. For the ratepayers who do pay their rates on time, I don't think they should cover the costs of the ones that don't pay their rates on time. We do have things in place to allow those that can't pay their rates, they only have to come to council and discuss those needs, and we'll look after them there. So I support this.
Councillor Seawright.
I support this in the same regards that Councillor Vincent and Councillor O'Neill just spoke to. As said, that previously that 4% to now rise to 11%, with a 5% obviously early prompt payment discount. Every mechanism's there in place with the council that it will not hit the general ratepayer unless they are over their payment, and also that they do have those mechanisms at their fingertips to access if they are suffering from hardship. So,
thank you. John, do you want to sum up?
To follow on from those guys, there is triggers in place that if they are under hardship, there's a flow chart about this long with so many stages. So there's a lot there to help them, but in the real world, everyone does pay their money on time, but a lot of people can't. So there's still avenues there for those guys to go down if they need to.
Very good. Okay, we'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. 3.21, Register of General Costs, Recovery Fees and Commercial Charges. Councillor Vincent.
I move that council, 1, receive and note the report, 2, adopt the amended fees and commercial charges commencing the 1st of July 2024, including the following areas that have been presented as separate reports, including community safety and airport. 3, resolve that in relation to those cost recovery fees in which Section 97 of the Local Government Act 2009 applies, 1, the applicant is the person liable to pay these fees, and 2, the fee must be paid at or before the time the application is lodged. 4, delegate to the Chief Executive Officer the power to amend commercial charges to which Section 2623C of the Local Government Act 2009 applies.
Do we have a seconder? Councillor Brumpton. Would you like to speak, Councillor Vincent? Anyone like to speak? Going to go to the vote? All those in favour? 8-0. .22, Significant Business Activity Assessment 2024-25. Do I have a mover? Councillor O'Neill.
I move that the result of the significant business activity assessment be received, noting that no further action is required.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Seawright. Anyone like to speak? Going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. .23, Code of Competitive Conduct 2024-25. Councillor Hancock.
I move that council does not apply the Code of Competitive Conduct to the following business activities for 2024-25. Building, certifying activity, quarry operations, sale yards operations, waste management, airport operations, water and sewerage services, gas operations, plant services, internal function, roads operations, mainly RMPC. Given the level of expenditure in the business activities and the little or no competition for the services provision, council sees no public benefit in applying the Code of Competitive Conduct at this time.
Have a seconder. Councillor Brumpton, like to speak? We're going to go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. .24, Adoption of the Annual Operational Plan 2024-25. Do I have a mover? Councillor Vincent.
I move that pursuant to Section 1045A(b) of the Local Government Act 2009 and Section 174 and 175 of the Local Government Regulation 2012, Council adopts the Annual Operational Plan for 2024-25 with the following amendments. Development of Maranoa Investment Prospectus to be changed from the tourism function to economic development and local business. Include an initiative under the economic development and local business function to commence a review of community and local plans.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hancock. Would you like to speak, Councillor?
Yes, I will speak. This is quite exciting for our term of council to actually see where we're going to take the council for the next 12 months. We've worked well as a team here at the table and with the Mayor as well to start getting an operational plan together. For those people in the community that might have been looking for projects in the capital works and not seeing them, they could well be in the operational plan as preparing them to be shovel ready. Yeah, I'm just excited to see, I can't list them all, to see this evolving, going ahead in the next year.
Thank you. Councillor Hancock?
I too support the operational plan. We have set a budget that supports our operational plan, and I'm very excited to see the inclusion in the resolution that we're going to commence a review of community and our local plans. Those plans are the ownership from the community. They're the plans that You know, we went out to the community and asked them what they see their vision for their community. And then with that vision, we adopt a plan that is a partnership. It is not all councils and it's not all community. It's actually a partnership between council and community and other forms of government. And so I believe that those community and local plans are really important. I think it's really important to get to a stage with that we can develop plans that when funding comes up, we already know what the community have as their wish list, and we can get those plans shovel ready and ready to go. Those sort of projects do come out of our local plans. Our local plans that we previously done, they were good plans. The community were very involved in them, and I'm looking forward to going through that process again, to look back to see what we've ticked off, because we've ticked off many good projects, and then to look forward to see what else is our community would like in the future. So I'm all happy to support this operational plan, and I look forward to actually reviewing these, and that may actually have a review of our operational plan into the future.
Thank you. Anyone? Councillor Brompton.
I'd like to thank the acting CEO for the work that he and his team have done to develop this plan. It's a more accurate, I think, and simplified version of the plan that we were presented with when we looked at some of our reviews early in our term. So I think it'll help us get some more meaningful reporting quarterly for council, and a lot of work has been done to capture in these last few weeks of where this current group of council is looking at going. And we all recognise we've got a way to go in various things, but this is a great way to set us up to start along that journey together, that we can work in with the officers around these priorities as well, and more accurately be able to review them each quarter as well.
Very good. Councillor Davis.
Thank you. Much work has gone into this document to ensure targeted and concise action and measures of success, and this document gives staff the best start to the new financial year and is aligned with our current priorities as a council. A few, if I could highlight for me, was I'm happy to see a target for apprentices and trainees at council, investing in local entry positions with a view to grow our own and put skilled workers back into our communities will only add to residents and council's options in future. Procurement is also high on my list of things to look at, how we can assist diversification of local businesses, ensure council and ratepayers are getting value for money, and enabling local supplier spend. Finally, supporting local business and positioning the Maranoa and council as open for business, that we are ready to support and capitalise on future economic development opportunities, and I would like to thank staff for all their input.
Very good. Anyone else like to speak? Councillor O'Neill.
I'll speak in favour. I'm happy to vote in support of this, knowing that when we undertake the work that needs to be done over the next quarter in relation to our materials and services, and anything that may come out of that will lead us to at the end of that quarter being able to review the annual operational plan as well. I think we need to make sure this is fit for purpose within the resources that we have to manage. And so whilst I'm happy to support it today, I just want to acknowledge that there may be tweaks throughout the 12 months when we identify savings in the other body of work that we're going to undertake between now and September. But thank you to the staff, particularly Cam and your team, that have gone into finessing this based on the number of conversations that have had in the last 8 weeks around priorities for this term of council. I am fully supportive of reviewing the community and local plans, and I think at the appropriate time we also need to, for this term of council, to look at the corporate plan and for us to have our mark on that. Timing dictated that it was done towards the end of last term, but as the results indicate, a lot of the people from an elected member perspective that were involved in the development of that are no longer here. And so I think it is prudent that this term of council looks at that as well. But to start with the community and local plans is the right step for me.
Anyone else like to speak?
I just want to thank Acting CEO Cam and his staff for putting it all together. Good effort. Look forward to reviewing it.
Very good. We'll go to the vote. All those in favour? 8-0. No other business in this special meeting of the budget? I'd just like to, again, thank you all for the hard work that you've done, and thank you to Cameron. And I'll just close the budget as the mayor for my first budget. Thank you very much.
Well done.